Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a massive, and I mean absolutely massive, evolution in the world of artificial intelligence. We're looking at the big transition of AI, going from a conversational assistant that just talks to you into a hands-on digital coworker that actually does the heavy lifting for you. We're unpacking Anthropic's January 2026 research preview of Claude Cowork, and trust me, you're going to want to hear this. So, look, let's jump right in by confronting a pain point we all share: digital clutter and those endless, soul-crushing administrative tasks. For years, AI assistants have been trapped inside a chat box, right? They were limited to this back-and-forth conversation. You could ask for advice on how to organize a messy folder or how to write a complex Excel formula, but at the end of the day, you were still the one who had to go and manually click the buttons to execute those steps. But ask yourself this: what happens when AI finally breaks out of that chat box and starts interacting directly with your local files? There's this perfect quote from the DataCamp tutorial on this new tech that absolutely hits the nail on the head regarding this paradigm shift. It says, "Regular Claude shows how. Cowork gets it done." We are officially moving away from an AI that just spits out a 5-step bulleted list for you to fix your messy spreadsheet to an AI that autonomously opens the spreadsheet itself, runs the formulas, formats your headers, and actually saves the final report for you. It's quite literally the difference between asking for directions and having your own personal chauffeur. Here is the roadmap for today's explainer. 1. Meet your AI coworker. 2. Chat versus cowork. 3. Real-world use cases. 4. How the magic works. And finally, 5. Limitations and costs. All right, let's kick things off with Section 1. Meet your AI coworker and the paradigm shift it brings. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that Claude Cowork represents a massive leap into what's being called operational AI. What that actually means in plain English is that it acts independently, right on your device. You just point Cowork to a local folder on your Mac or Windows machine, describe what you want done, and it handles the rest. It plans and executes the steps autonomously. We're talking reading, writing, renaming, moving, and organizing files. It takes a big, complex task, chops it up into smaller pieces, and acts as an agentic tool, not just some passive chat bot waiting for your next prompt. Moving right along to Section 2, Chat versus Cowork, breaking down the capabilities matrix. Think of Anthropic's ecosystem as being really clearly segmented based on who is using it. Regular Claude Chat, that's conversational. It has zero direct file system access and relies entirely on you uploading small files. Then, on the far end, you have Claude Code, which is deeply technical, operating in a terminal to help hardcore developers build software. But Cowork? It sits perfectly in the middle. It takes that deep file system automation from Claude Code and wraps it in a familiar chat interface specifically designed for non-coders, letting everyday knowledge workers automate their daily grind. Let's get into the fun stuff. Section 3, real-world use cases. Let's actually see it in action. Picture your downloads folder right now. Yeah, the messy one. We all have one, even if we pretend we don't. In our source example, a user pointed Cowork at a folder containing exactly 186 totally scattered files. We're talking duplicate PDFs, random installers, screenshots with insane alphanumeric names, and various CSV documents just piled up over months. Now, instead of you manually clicking, dragging, and reading every single file for an hour, Cowork just handles it autonomously. Behind the scenes, it actually runs terminal commands to perform file hash checks. This means it catches duplicates even if they are hiding behind completely different file names. It found over 30 duplicates, actually stopped to ask the user for explicit permission before deleting a single thing, safely trashed 27 of them, and then built a clean 11-folder structure. Oh, and it even opened generic files, like a photo named 1.jpg, actually read the visual content and renamed it to something descriptive. Mind-blowing, right? Here is another awesome data example. A user threw a massive batch conversion and compression task at the system. By processing 40 bulky PDFs, Cowork instantly saved 63.7 megabytes of local storage space. And honestly, the brilliant part about all of this is that it handles these formats natively using local open source tools like LibreOffice and GhostScript, right on your own machine. That means you completely bypass the need to upload your sensitive, private documents to some random unsecure conversion website. In one seamless workflow, it converted Word docs, compressed images without losing quality, and even tackled a zipped finance backup file, pulling out 14 months of data to generate a beautifully formatted 10-page PDF executive summary. It's like having an intern who works at the speed of light. So, how does it actually pull this off? Section 4, how the magic works. Let's peek at the architecture. It basically boils down to a three-part architecture, which brilliantly illustrates the mechanics behind the magic. First up, the brain relies on the massive reasoning power of Claude Opus 4.5, utilizing its huge 200,000 token context window to actually plan out these multi-step workflows. Then you've got the eyes. It uses the computer-used API to take screenshots, letting it visually understand your user interfaces just like a human would. Finally, the hands act as its digital limbs, physically taking over the mouse, typing on your keyboard, and managing the files on your system. Now, I know what you're thinking. Security is obviously a massive question when you give an AI access to your local files. Well, to keep your machine safe, these operations run inside an isolated Apple VZ virtual machine sandbox. Plus, you get total control over two distinct security modes depending on your comfort level. You can set it to ask before acting, where it literally pauses and waits for your direct approval before touching anything sensitive. Or if you're feeling confident, you can choose act without asking, where it just executes independently, though it keeps a background classifier running constantly to screen for any malicious prompt injections. All right, let's wrap things up with Section 5, limitations and costs. Time for some radical transparency. You need to know that right now, not all file formats are treated equally by the system. While the Word document skill is incredibly reliable, mostly because it uses nice, clean, predictable XML structures, Excel files are a whole different beast. If you feed Cowork a messy spreadsheet with merged cells and headers randomly plastered everywhere, kind of like the open source Lichess financial example from the source data, the parser is going to hit a brick wall. It expects clean, tabular database structures, and it really struggles with the creatively chaotic layouts that we humans love to build. On top of that, the Claude and Chrome extension integration has some very real bottlenecks. For example, yes, you can ask Cowork to automatically unsubscribe you from hundreds of spam emails. It will totally do it. It'll open tabs, search Gmail, and click on subscribe buttons. But it is a painfully sluggish process that can take over 30 minutes for a single task. And that's simply because every single mouse movement and page load requires a brand new screenshot to be sent all the way back to the server for processing. And of course, that brings us to the price tag. Accessing this technology isn't cheap. It requires a Claude Max subscription, which is currently running between $100 and $200 a month. Look, that is undeniably a premium price point, no getting around it. But the value is deeply rooted in just how compute-heavy this tech really is. It's coordinating multiple subagents in parallel, running extended remote server sessions that don't time out. Basically, to put it into perspective, if you are a knowledge worker who is losing hours and hours every single week to repetitive data formatting, file sorting, and endless format conversions, you are the exact target audience who will easily get a return on investment by outsourcing this daily grind. The shift from getting conversational advice to having actual operational execution is officially here, and it's going to fundamentally change how we interact with our computers forever. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. As this tech becomes the new normal, what is the very first mind-numbing task you are going to hand over to your brand new digital coworker tomorrow morning?